Hello, I've not done a video in a while, so I thought I'd do a quick video on expanding triple brackets. This is quite a big topic, so I'm going to split it up into two videos. I have got, before we get into it, I'll kind of just show you quickly. One of my frustrations when I was at school is that you'd watch one of these videos on how to do something, then you'd get given a load of questions, but then when you finish those questions, you've got the answers. That was it. Later on, when you come back to revise the topic, there were no further questions to practice. You had to do the kind of same ones. So I've kind of come up with a way to get around that problem. I've made one of these question generators where type 1 are the easiest, and they go all the way up to type 4, which are the slightly more tricky ones. And then for each of them, you can get some answers, and then you can generate some new questions. But yeah, I'll attach that that file to the video, or a link or something, so you've got access to it as well. Okay, so let's go to the examples. But quickly before I do, in order to do this topic, there are certain areas of maths that you need to be really confident with. And I've listed those here. So to be able to expand triple brackets, some of the more basic things you need to be able to do are kind of simplifying algebra, collecting like terms, and I've got an example here. Multiplying algebraic terms, operations with negative numbers, and expanding double brackets. So if you can't do those things, I suggest you practice those before trying to do these expanding triple bracket questions. So I've got two examples just to go through, and we're going to start with this one here, the x plus 5, x plus 3, x plus 2. You have to remember that each of these brackets represent a number. And in maths, when there are no signs in between them, in between brackets, it means you're multiplying them together. So if each of those entire brackets represent a number, you are multiplying three numbers together, essentially, those three brackets. So ignoring those brackets for a second, if I just gave you, let's write that where you can see it, 2 times 3 times 5, for example. Again, this has got nothing to do with the question, it's just to illustrate a point. So 2 times 3 is 6, 6 times 5 is 30. 2 times 5 times 3, well, 2 times 5 is 10, 10 times 3 is 30. When you're multiplying numbers, it doesn't matter which way round you do them. So it's the same with brackets. When you are expanding brackets, well, more than two of them, in this case we've got 3, it doesn't matter whether you do x plus 5 times x plus 2 and then use your answer to that to multiply that by x plus 3, or you could do x plus 5 times x plus 3, get your answer to that and multiply it by x plus 2. It doesn't matter which order you do it in. I'm going to be logical and do the first two brackets, multiply those together first. So this on its own is just an expanding double brackets question. The method I suggest you use for these questions is the grid method. So in the top, I'm going to write x and then positive 5. I want you to include the sign that comes before the number as well. If you get into the habit of doing that, later on when you look at negative questions, you're not going to forget to put that negative in there before the number. So it's always a good idea to put those in. And then down the side, in red, I'm going to put the x and then the positive 3 that goes after it. And then just as you did with double brackets, we are multiplying these terms together. So x times x gives you x squared. Positive 5 times x gives you positive 5x. Positive 3 times x gives you positive 3x. And positive 3 times positive 5 gives you positive 15. Okay, so just as before, just as with double brackets, I'm going to write that all out in one line first, and then we are going to group together the like terms. So remember, you cannot put the x squared together with the x's. So I've got x squared, and then my two terms that just have an x in it. Again, when I do this, I'm including the plus that goes before the positive that goes before them. So if I've got positive 5x and I add another 3x, that's going to give me plus 8x, and then I've got this plus 15 on its own on the end as well. We are then going to use our answer, because what we've done there is we've expanded these two brackets and got x squared plus 8x plus 15. We are now going to multiply that whole answer by the third bracket, or whichever bracket you have not yet used, if you didn't do the first two brackets together, multiply them together. And then down the side, x and plus 2. So now just going to multiply x squared times x gives you x cubed. X times positive 8x gives you positive 8x squared. It's going to be plus 15x plus 2x squared plus 16x and plus 30. So now I'm going to write out all of those things in one big line, and then we can deal with the simplifying bit after that. Plus 16x and plus 30. Okay, it might be a good idea as you go through them to kind of cross them out to make sure you've got everything and you haven't missed anything. So there were 6 terms I should have written down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. Okay, so now group together the x squareds. There's only one of them. Now we've got this plus 8x squared and this plus 2x squared, which in total gives us plus 10x squared. Now let's deal with the x's. Again, I always suggest including the sign that comes before them. So don't just do put a box around the 15 and the x. Include the positive as well. So if I've got 15x and I add 16x's, I'm going to have 31x's. And then that plus 30 on the end. That's the answer. So we've multiplied, we've expanded all three of those brackets, and we've simplified them to get this answer. Okay, one more example, and here I'm going to try and bring in 2 new kind of ideas. This is slightly more tricky for 2 reasons. You've got the squared bit here. You've also got to watch out for these negative numbers, which is why I said it's really important that you're good with operations with negative numbers. Okay, I deal with any kind of squareds or cubes first. Remember, this squared means everything in the bracket multiplied by itself. So I would start by rewriting this question without those powers. So squared means everything in that bracket multiplied by itself. Once you've done that, it doesn't matter what order you do them in. Normally, with BIDMAS, BODMAS, you'd have to do what's in the bracket and then square it. That's what I've done here. So now it doesn't matter which order you multiply those 2 things in. I'm going to start just as I did before by multiplying the first 2 brackets together using the grid method. So in the top box, 2x, remember I said about including the sign that goes before it, that's really important. And then x plus 4 down the side. Then it's just the same process as before. I didn't mention this at the start. The second thing that's slightly more tricky is that there is a number in front of the x. It doesn't make it too much more tricky, you've just got to watch out for that. 2x multiplied by x would give you 2x squared. Negative 3 times x gives you negative 3x. Positive 4 times 2x gives you positive 8x. Positive 4 times negative 3 gives you negative 12. So just as before, I'm going to write that out in full. Okay, so the first bit, there's only one x squared term. Watch out for these. If I started with negative 3x's and I added 8x's, that's going to give me plus 5x's. And then negative 12. So I've expanded the first 2 brackets. Now we're going to use that answer and multiply it by the third and final bracket. So I've got 2x squared plus 5x negative 12. And I'm going to multiply that by the final bracket I haven't used yet, which is x plus 4. So 2x squared times x gives you 2x cubed. X times 5x will give you 5x squared. That will be negative 12x plus 8x squared plus 20x and negative 48. So now we're nearly there. Just to finish up, write out the whole thing in one block. Plus 20x negative 48. And then just to finish off, we're just going to simplify. There's only one term with a x cubed in it, so that becomes 2x cubed plus 5x squared and then plus 8x squared. It's going to give you 13x squared. And I've got negative 12 plus 20 is going to give you plus 8x. And then let's use a triangle on that one. That's going to be negative 48. So there's a couple of examples there. I've tried to cover all of the kind of skills that will allow you to answer all of these questions. So type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4, you can get your answers by clicking here. If you don't want to know what level of difficulty each question is and you just want a mixture to practice all sorts, you can click this one here and it will generate lots of mixed up questions, some of them easy, some of them difficult in no particular order, and your answers are there as well. I think that's it. So I'll do another video on these slightly more tricky problem solving questions. Some of the more difficult exam questions will look a little bit more like these ones, but that will be another video. I hope that's useful. Thanks very much for watching.